All right, well, good afternoon. Welcome to our MCURC Insights Exchange focused on resilience of the university food system. I'm Sophie Egan, the MCURC co-director alongside Eric Montel. He'll speak in just a moment, but I wanted to give a warm welcome to everyone. Today's Insights Exchange focuses on sharing fall plans for dining operations in the spirit of COVID pivots. So exchanging lessons learned and building resilience throughout the university food system. We've been really excited to see such high participation. Incredible number of members and sponsor representatives have accepted the invitation for today. So this really shows putting words, action into words. And what I mean by that is that we clearly saw in the needs assessment that we shared with everyone, many comments from folks saying that just learning from what everyone is doing has immense value during this time. That also came up on our first Insights Exchange focused on COVID responses. And this has really been a repeated theme that the value of this peer learning community is higher than ever before. It can serve as a critical hub of support, perhaps both personal and professional during uncertain times for your universities and your departments. And also really as a critical hub of troubleshooting for your position, your programs, and a place where best practices can be harvested through the extraordinary collective brain power, experience, and expertise of this inspired network of leaders. So I'm going to let Eric share a couple of thanks and then a few other introductory notes from my side, and then we'll kick it over to our speakers.
Great. Thanks so much, Sophie. It's great to see everybody on our Zoom call today. And I just want to take a moment to also thank our sponsors for their continued support. They're really critical members of our community. They're thought partners. They help us as fellow colleagues and leaders in advancing our evidence-based research, education and innovation, and of course, all in the name of healthy, sustainable, delicious food choices. So we hope that our sponsors are also gaining as much insight from these insight exchanges as we know our members have been, and that's the feedback that we've been receiving from our members. But if there are ideas for future sessions, insights exchanges, and that goes for both sponsors and members, please always feel free to either reach out to Sophie or to me directly. So thank you all very much and looking forward to today's discussion.
Great, thanks, Eric. Also wanted to thank the 18 dining directors who took the time to complete the survey that you're going to be hearing about today. This is a really exciting piece of research that our research program manager, Ghislaine Chalamel, will tell you more about, as well as the researchers behind that work, Dr. Chris Bosso and Dr. May Wang. But we know how incredibly busy you all are, and it's just an amazing response rate, about 40% actually of all of our dining directors who took the time to complete that survey, given even amid incredibly busy schedules and these high intensity times for all of you on the job. So we thank you, and certainly there's still time to complete the survey for those of you who haven't had the chance, but that I think really shows the value of the questions that we're asking and of the insights that are going to be exchanged on today's session in particular. One last note, just a heads up on format. In the past, we've done some breakout sessions, and we really like to throw you out into small group discussions for more one-on-one or small group conversation. We do plan to do more of that in the future. But the reason that we actually want to keep everyone together for the full group today is that this is a bit of sort of live research. As a research collaborative, we plan to actually capture insights and data from all of you during today's session and throughout future sessions that can feed into research projects and where we can really kind of feed that, the culmination of our insights that we gather back to all of you. So we definitely plan to do more of that, and just a note that there will be 2 live polls as part of that interaction throughout today's session. Lastly, a huge thanks to Ghislaine Chalamel, who is really the producer of today's session. She did an incredible job of connecting research with actual member insights. So you're going to be hearing from 4 dining directors, and I'm going to turn it over to her to give you the background of this research project, and just huge thanks for all that she did to make today's session possible. So welcome, and we hope you enjoy.
Thank you so much, Sophie. This project is truly collaborative work. It started from the lively discussions in the research working group monthly meetings, March, on how this special time impacts everyone and everything. This research project, the resilience in the university food system, is led by Dr. May Wang, expert on social and physical environmental determinants of public health, and Professor Bosso, expert on public policy and food system sustainability. Together, we have developed the quickest research project in MCURC's history. In a month, we had the support and guidance of MCURC's leadership. And there, I want to express our gratitude to Eric Montel and Sophie Egan for their leadership and support throughout this process. We developed a 25-question survey and had 18 responses from dining directors, as you mentioned, from 16 universities, which represents more than 40% response rate in 2 weeks. Professor Bosso will present you the survey and the main results. Then we will have 4 of our dining directors sharing their journey through COVID, and we'll keep some time for discussions and questions. Chris?
Great. Thanks, Ghislaine. And also thanks, May Wang is out there somewhere. Thanks to everybody. Again, Christopher Bosso, Northeastern University. That's Boston behind me. I haven't seen it in a while, but I know it's still there. And a shout out to Maureen Timmons, my colleague at Northeastern, who I know is there somewhere. The survey itself, again, came out of some discussions in the research working group, and it was a very simple question that animated the survey. Well, what happened? You know, this event of unparalleled significance hit us like the proverbial tsunami, and we were interested in knowing exactly how universities in the MCURC network responded. What happened to them? And so we developed this, May Wang and I, and we helped mostly by Ghislaine, developed a quick survey instrument with Eric and Sophie's permission and support, sent it out to the dining directors at 41 universities. So far, again, 16 universities have responded. You still have time. Please, if you haven't had a chance, we would love to have more responses, because the purpose of the survey really is not sort of meant for, you know, a sort of standard academic journal. This is really meant to be disseminated among all of you as colleagues, and as it's really designed to sort of just find out best practices, similar experiences, advice for the future, what we can learn from each other. And that was the whole purpose behind the survey. So the survey asks about the context of your university, your unit. It really asked about your immediate responses to the campus closure, impact on safety, implementation as you move forward toward the fall, reopening plans, and then lessons learned. So really, it was really asking how did the pandemic and its affiliated closures affect campus dining, your universities? How did you adapt, both immediately but also over the summer? And what's going on as you approach the fall? And what lessons did you learn from that? So next slide, please. Great. So again, this is just very preliminary. We're not going to go through everything, just give you some sense of what we've learned so far. Most universities, and I should say most university dining systems, remained open in some way, shape, or form. Even if the students all went home, most universities kept their dining systems at least partially open because there were there were staff especially, and for others on campus who needed to be fed. In some cases, there were also students who couldn't go home yet. They all served students. Again, what students that remained, most served staff and a few served faculty that remained around. A few utilized their facilities to feed first responders or food assistance programs, where they were purposed for food assistance programs. Far fewer than we might have expected, but I think that's a more interesting, deeper question about why that was the case. Because here you have those universities with commercial-sized kitchens that could have been utilized in many creative ways, and yet in most cases were not. Most meals, again, they transition from the standard model that you've all know about to really, most meals were picked up, grab and go kind of formats. At 3 universities, meals were delivered to students in quarantine, and perhaps presaging, by the way, what could happen this fall in some instances. collectively, and this was the big impact. I mean, obviously asked a very specific question. It's quite clear that the pandemic and the affiliated closures decimated, the number of meals served per day, with affiliated impacts obviously on the bottom line in many university dining systems, if not all. Next slide, please. So, and we also asked, the impact on various dimensions: food procurement, types of service, staff, menu engineering, and dining operation sustainability goals. And obviously, very little to some impact on food procurement. I mean, obviously, perhaps because of the just-in-time delivery nature and flexible nature of a lot of food procurement strategies. I mean, the larger institutional food system had its own hiccups in terms of ability to redirect those foods. But as far as dining systems were concerned, it was a relatively modest impacts. But the real impacts were on the types of service that you had, the impacts on staff, in many instances furloughed because there was nothing for them to do. No income coming in. Menu engineering, obviously huge impacts as you move, not just in the summer, but toward the fall. And of course, on your sustainability goals. This was perhaps the biggest impact of all, the impact on sustainability goals, simply because the nature of trying to stay safe meant all the sustainability goals in terms of reducing waste, in terms of packaging, in terms of plastics, just went out the window as you had to focus on safety. Next slide. So, and obviously, and one thing that, and this is a shout out to Ghislaine, who pulled together this word cloud, that, besides keeping your community safe, when the survey asked, what are the main priorities for your dining program in 2021, and obviously focusing on students, safety, healthy experiences. How do you maintain community in these conditions? What's going to happen? So, I mean, again, this is just very quick and quick preliminary results. We've got a lot of information so far, and I do encourage you, if you haven't had a chance to answer the survey yet, please do so, because again, the richer the responses we get, the more that we can share with you later on this summer and early fall, as you think about, especially as you think about opening, maybe best practices you can share with your colleagues, similar concerns. So I'll leave it go with that and hand it over back to Ghislaine.
Thank you very much, Chris. I think the highlights of this survey are brilliantly presented, and there is much more in the survey, and we will of course develop executive summary of the results. So Sophie shared the link to the poll, to the survey, so don't hesitate to take it, and we will send it at the end of the meeting. So our first live poll ever. It's a very new type of interactions with you. So we would like to know what you are serving more of right now compared with your menu pre-COVID. So of course, we're not talking in terms of quantity, because coming from 17,000 to 1,000, we can see that you're serving less of everything, probably. But as per pound of food, we would like to know what you are serving more of now. And we would also like to know what you are serving less of. So Shannon will put together, can you launch the poll, Shannon? Awesome, so you should have it.
Can you see it?
Yes, but this is the results. We need the question.
Questions are showing, so you can see both. There's two questions. What are you serving more of now? And then we'll see the results coming in.
Are you guys getting questions?
Yes. Yep, we can see the questions, so everyone can go ahead and read those options. Click those that apply for you. And then once everyone's had a second, you can go ahead and share the results. All right, the suspense. Can you share it? I'm pretty sure you can show the results as they're coming in.
I'm not sure. I think I need the poll to show the results.
Okay, I think looks like everyone's backing away from their computer.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's slowed down.
I think from the menu perspective, we are very curious of what you are doing, because obviously the fact that we are pre-packaging everything now is pretty constraining for the type of food that we are serving, and we have to make difficult choice. We had discussions at Stanford and outside about the type of food that's stay well in a container. It's quite different than one that stay well on a station. Also, the ability for students to customize is of course very highly impacted. So if you have any things that you would like to share, and I see Krista said pivoting on beverages has been a challenge. I can definitely relate to that at Stanford. We cannot have fountains or, you know, self-serve any type of beverage, and hot coffee is gone. And I know that's a big challenge for people like me who like coffee. I can see Leslie is sharing that there's less red meat because of supply chain issues, fewer whole grains and vegetarian options based on change in leadership and change in priorities. That's very interesting as well, because we know whole grains are something that we want to advance, but it's difficult, especially in this environment. Severe menu limiting without thought toward optimization. Yeah, same as we have seen in the feedback that we had, working on bringing back inclusive options since customization is not workable. Exactly.
So Ghislaine,
another thing,
just jump in as Sophie, just for anybody who might be joining only by audio. So the top choice that came through for the question of what are you serving more of now compared with your menu pre-COVID was actually vegetables tied with poultry. So that's really interesting. I'd love for folks to elaborate on, you know, what kinds of vegetables, what kinds of poultry, you know, why are these the items that you're serving more of? Close behind those top two items were grains at 45%, and then fruits at 30%. And then for what are you serving less of now compared with your menu pre-COVID, by far the most common was red meat. So again, why are you serving less of that? Elaborate, tell us more about that. Kind of tied for second place of items being served less of now were seafood, sugar sweetened beverages, and sweets and desserts. Also very interesting. Maybe across the board, what I'm seeing is kind of the indulgent items are going down perhaps. So we'd love to learn more about that in the chat and potentially in future follow-up. So back to you, Ghislaine. I just want to make sure that anybody who's only joining by audio has a chance to hear what the results of our first poll were.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. What's interesting as well is that we have much more items in the what are you serving more of rather than less of. I feel like the bars like are much smaller, so it's interesting as well. It means that the impact is really on the variety of food, I feel. We have Chef Kurt who say we have been trying to limit fried foods, a lot to do with how they travel in containers. That's also a challenge, right? We want things to hold and be as delicious 15 or half an hour later than they are when we cook them. Eric shared that we worked with suppliers to purchase large quantities of poultry due to supply chain issues. These were put into storage. And I think the supply chain, and we saw that in the answers, is also something that can impact a lot our operations. Less meat, grill is closed, more to-go salads, chicken sandwiches are popular. And vegetable variety was a great way to keep the menus interesting and varied. we were only feeding a very small population. So we geared menus to their feedback. Lots of broccoli, corn, green beans, potatoes, and beef chicken were preferred to seafood, grains, and dairy. A lot of salads too. I would love to know how you gather the feedback of the students. That would be very interesting, Colleen. Yeah, I think we have covered your feedback. And so now let's move on to the member insights. So we have, and I want to thank you, the four of you, of course, everyone who has taken the survey, but I want to express a special thank to all the dining directors that are taking the time to share their journey through COVID until now. We will start with Krista Martin, who is Director for Strategic Initiatives and Communication at Harvard. And then we'll move on with Eric Geiger, who is, and sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, but Eric is Senior Director of Dining and Catering of University of Texas at Austin, and then Stephen Mengen, Senior Director for Michigan Dining, and Jose Martinez, General Manager of Dining Services at Pomona College. Krista, let me know when you want me to change your slides.
I'm ready. All right, so I'm pleased to be with you. I work with a fantastic team at Harvard University Dining Services, and just sort of for a sense of things pre-COVID, at Harvard, we run 13 undergraduate dining halls, 14 retail operations, and a full catering service. We have more than 600 employees, but the largest percentage of those are unionized. And we were serving approximately 22,000 meals a day. We're based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and unfortunately, Massachusetts was one of the very early states to have a big influx of cases. So much so that in the week of March 9th, our university made the decision to send all the students home. They sent them home at spring break. They gave them a week to get out and said, don't come back. Everything will be online afterward. So that was a massive shift. And then within a week after that, our governor closed all restaurants and food services to anything besides takeout. So for those of you who know what it means to forecast 3 weeks in advance and have a menu, you know, all mapped out and ordering and all those kinds of things, it required some really rapid fire changes to our service model. So initially, during the week of March 9th, as we were getting ready to close, we immediately turned the spoons around and had all of our food served to students. But within a week, the governor was saying, no, that wouldn't work. And we needed to package all the food for takeout. So we began to do that. And initially we were putting everything in bags, and you would come in and pick up a bag and take it to go. But students were really worried about what the components were in that bag and the ability to customize and having too much or not enough of any one given thing. So we shifted to a system of laying everything out, and they could simply point to them and select them. We were down to about 500 students by this point, let me say. And then as things continued to progress, our real challenge came in our staffing and trying to get folks to socially distance, trying to manage people's anxiety and fear, and really coming to a version of service that had the fewest possible people. And at the end of the day, and meanwhile, the university had committed to pay folks their full salaries throughout this time, even if they were not able to come to work. So it set up some challenging dynamics. at the end of the day, we moved to buying in virtually everything that we were serving, and having a real skeleton crew serving in just a handful of locations. So, you know, all of which, my favorite analogy from this time period has been that we were building the plane while we were flying it. We were most definitely trying to adapt to new situations every single day. So the benefit of that, though, is that we've learned what we want to do as we reopen. So you're welcome to switch, Ghislaine. And I tried to keep note of the questions Christopher asked. So when we reopen in fall, we will reopen every one of our residential dining operations. The campus will have 25% of the undergraduates on it. Almost none of our retail operations will open because almost none of our professional schools will have people on campus. All classes will be virtual, but the university felt like it was important to bring first-year students and students with significant barriers to their virtual learning back to campus. So, so we will have about 2,000 students, about 200 residential staff. We will be preparing all of the food in a significantly modified menu, very curated, very controlled, in order to ensure that it can be prepared by staff in a way where they're keeping apart from each other, and where we don't have leftovers, but we'll also be able to then donate anything that is not picked up. And one of our strategies is actually to open in a more restrictive way and hold out a less restrictive version of dining as a carrot to great community buy-in for, you know, keeping transmission low. So we will open with a version of service where everything is packaged. And again, that, you know, we're making it, but they're going to pick it up and take it back to their rooms, but hold out this hope that we can move to a version where we're once again serving hot food because everyone in the community is working to take care of each other. We do have a robust quarantine and isolation meal delivery ordering system set up. So we'll be providing all of those meals. But again, so to about 2,200 people a day. For me, the biggest piece of this lesson has been that we needed to be far more transparent with our staff about what we were doing and what we needed from them. Rather than giving them information and asking them to trust our judgment, we really needed to be wide open with all the information that we could, and not just have them expect that we were doing our best, but to be really clear about what that would look like. So as a result, we have a very detailed reopening training program. We have very robust testing happening that includes the staff. We have messaging to the entire community that includes information about how we're working to keep both students and staff safe. So again, sort of all the open information we can provide. So I think I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Krista. And I can echo Sophie's comment. What a fascinating incentive system. It's very clever. And I think I would love to know more. We will now let Eric Geiger share his journey. Eric?
Thank you. And from sunny Austin. Our lessons were learned a lot by what we saw school from the East Coast doing. UT actually had spring break on the weekend where this started to blow up here in Texas. So we were fortunate that students were actually leaving campus. During spring break, it was announced that students would not be coming back and that students would be moving out. So our population was reduced immediately, which was something that was good at the time, but it did leave us without the opportunity to learn as we go. So we were fortunate through calls like this, calls with other NACUPS members, to be able to learn best practices that had been experienced from schools that had stayed open. So I'm covering the greatest changes to our operations as we're looking to fall. From a variety of sources, we have networked with other institutions, as well as taking CDC and everything else in mind. And the greatest change that I'm seeing is the actual layout of our operations. We have converted 2 retail operations to resident dining. So we currently have 2 large residential units, but that was not going to be enough to maintain social distancing and preventing cross contact. So we converted 2 retail operations, and then we created another hotline at another hybrid location so that we could have 5 locations serving hot food to help thin down the densities. In addition, we're opening up outposts that will be offering prepackaged residential meals. In the units themselves, there is queuing outside of the dining facilities with social spacing that everybody's using on the floors. We've employed density technology, SMS. So there is going to be screens outside of our dining rooms and our dining facilities, whether it's retail or residential, so that people can see if it's okay to enter. There will be somebody monitoring the door, but this prevents the monitor from having to be the cop, so to speak. The red or green light helps to determine whether we can accept additional patrons. From there, when they walk in, they'll notice that there's actually partitions hanging from the ceiling that separate people from two-way traffic, so that there is one entrance and one exit where there is a shared corridor or door. There's actually a physical barrier between them. When they get into line, they'll see that there are actually lines set up at the different stations. Variety has been greatly impacted, as was mentioned. This is in an effort to expedite choices, but also to minimize the amount of time that students are grazing. They're going to be able to take to-go packages from a main unit, and then they're going to be able to take as well smaller units. When they leave, they'll be taking a canned beverage with them, as well as single dispensed utensils and PCs. All operations are operating as a to-go, so they'll actually exit serveries. If they want to come back in, they will enter in from a separate entrance for the dining rooms. In an effort to maintain some sort of a sense of community, as opposed to barriers that they couldn't see through, we went with transparent. So the people in the serveries can actually see people in the dining rooms, which we'll see how this all works. We're actually learning that we're having to put some kind of like birds you see that in the high rises with the glass, because people are starting to run into these plastic walls that we've put up. So the physical location is the biggest difference, but right next to that is the variety. When we think about lessons learned, and you can go to the next slide, it really stemmed around communication. There was a lot of effort in tripling our communication with our staff. I held weekly Zoom calls with the hourly staff. I was holding everyday meetings with direct reports, as well as GMs running the operations were meeting 3 times a week with me to keep them informed. But as we were reacting and moving, it became apparent that not just dining was changing, but so was housing, so was facilities, so was housekeeping. And we actually benefited from slowing down a bit and having a wider range of communications with all of our ancillary departments that we partner with. This kind of helped us stay in unison and not get too far ahead or out of sync with our partners. It also helped as we took that lesson and applied it internally. When we were talking, whether it was in retail or residential, North Campus, South Campus, things were happening so fast that people were having to go back and to repeat themselves or to correct correct themselves. So we purposely indicated that we would make sure that we were sharing a written plan and that we had steps, whether it was setting dining rooms, determining menus, doing layouts, determining where in-unit communication collateral was being posted. Everything was paced out so that we could stay connected. And then we also ensured that there was enough time to follow back up to see how we could stay connected. So that was our greatest lesson as we kind of come up to opening.
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the insight that we had from the survey is the importance of the people, the team, and that was pretty heartwarming to read all that you shared about how amazing your teams are, how fast they adapted to this new normal. And I just wanted to share that because with this communication, and we've seen that at Stanford as well, leadership is so important, and the ability to share, to meet people through Zoom is really important to keep people engaged, whether they are in operations or working from home. Thank you so much, Eric. Stephen from Michigan Dining, can you share as well? Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, you can flip right to the next slide, Elaine. So Michigan's another large dining operation. We've got 9 dining halls, 25 retail operations, catering, at least we had catering. So I wanted to focus a little more on the student experience that we're working with rather than the operational details that we've seen going from March till now. It's really interesting that our work has been very similar to what Eric's been doing in Texas as well as at Harvard. We've been serving 100 meals a day with the remnants of students left on campus in a fresh takeout operation. But as we expand for the fall, we're going to be going with takeout only. And then like Harvard, we're going to expand to dine in if we can, if the students are playing the right way and if we have enough staff. So we're looking at that same kind of process. We've, like Eric, we've made menu adjustments that are massive. Having an all takeout operation limits choices and what we can do and speed of throughput, et cetera. And one of the things we're really looking at is how do we maintain our wellness and sustainability commitments with this massive change and manage the students' expectations as we get into this. And right now we've got 2 major concerns. One, we don't know how many students are going to return. The residential program has till August 14th to cancel contracts. And then we don't know what our staffing is going to be right now. So we're waiting to see who returns from furloughs, who's willing to work. So I think we share a lot of those concerns with many of our peers. The biggest thing right now, we're going to plan on keeping our retail operations open. Again, we're working with our MOUs with our partners on campus to let them know we're not going to keep these open if their teams don't support us. We can't be subsidizing these different department programs on the backs of our dining program. We're going to see increased food insecurity needs. Catering operations are essentially gone. So we're really thinking about moving into different ways of communicating with our students. We're concerned that if they're going to participate in the stay safe requirements, we're worrying about the institution being aligned with the messages going out between housing and dining and rec sports, et cetera. We're innovating with social media to try to figure out how we communicate differently virtually. And we're looking at how we interest the students into actionable work and leverage their voice for changes that may be needed. And considering the financial implications, our budgets are shot to pieces. There's a battle going up above us. Do we support the student experience, or do we cut to the bone with financial consideration? So it's going to be an interesting battle coming up. And we still wonder what's going to happen if the residential program gets canceled. So we can jump to the next slide. So thinking about the student experience. Many of us are hoping that we get back to what normal was. I'm kind of excited about thinking about what our new normal will be. And right now, we see an opportunity for some massive change, both with operationally and dining itself, but I think our suppliers are open to some change as well. And how do we, within that need for change and thinking about what the future is going to be, how do we prepare food within our tight budgets better than we did before? When we focus on healthy, quick, convenient, and craveable foods, I'm not sure we're going to be given the latitude that we've had for the last 10 years to have anything goes and these high cost programs. We'll be looking at that as well. Another question we're looking at is how do we shape future leaders to understand the food system, not only our staff, but our students who are going to get into this work. How do we drive food literacy and the connections to health and wellness as we move into this post-pandemic world that we're going to be living in soon? And with that, COVID has really highlighted the inequities in our system. We're seeing the Black Lives Matter movement, the anti-racism movements, driven primarily, the trigger point was in public safety, but the COVID is opening up the reality of our access to food is difficult for certain communities. Healthcare is education, housing, public safety. These are all issues that are built in systemically and institutionally into inequities across the country. Our students are going to be asking us for the institution to take action on that. And we're looking at dining. Our work is around the food system. And we recognize that the food system, and this is part of menus of change work and conversations, but our food system and supply chain structure contributes to many of these issues, certainly with access to food. We look at our working conditions with our supply chains, and we're going to be working with our students to think about how we support equity around our vendors' codes of conduct and how they're treating migrant labor and working conditions in the manufacturing and processing plants. How can we work with systemically to make sure there's opportunities presented with our Black, Latino, and Asian small farms and businesses who are being overlooked in this support that's coming up right now. And we'll be looking for making a commitment to this action from dining. So it's really our work next, once we've got our operational plan, which is basically locked and loaded. We're going to jump off the bridge here in a couple of weeks. It's going to be more about how we connect to students, how we bring value to them being a residential student in a virtual environment on campus. And our work in dining is similar in a lot of ways, but different in a lot of ways to what's going on in housing and the other parts of the institution. So that's our twist on it. Love to talk more if anybody's interested in talking with me about these issues. So thanks.
Thank you so much. I was thinking while listening to you, you know, crisis come from the Greek krinein, who means separate the good grain from the bad grain. And obviously this crisis just show us everything that is not working right now in the food system and beyond. And so thank you for highlighting, these difficulties that we have on supporting Black, Latinos, and Asian, the farming system, and the inequalities of access on food. These are questions that we've talked a lot in the research working group, and I can see many initiatives. We have Charlie Hobbs, who is on the call today, and I saw her face, and she is a Stanford student, MCURC fellows, working on food access and food insecurity in the Bay Area and beyond. And I feel these are really major challenges and issues that we need to fix as quick as possible. So thank you so much for sharing this. Our last but not least intervention is from Jose Martinez from Pomona College. So please, Jose, please share your journey as well.
Hi, hello, all. Thank you for letting me share our journey. So let me just quickly say that we're Pomona College. We're not Cal Poly Pomona. We get a lot of confusion with that. Pomona College is very unique. We're part of a consortium of 5 undergraduate and 2 graduate colleges in Claremont, California. So we're a big entity. This makes this made things a little bit worse for us. We pride ourselves of having a very strong ERT protocol and program in place. We have food bins that where we store food in case of a big emergency. We have food for 7 days to feed 2,200 faculty, staff, students. So we didn't worry so much when this started in February, but oh boy, we were wrong. So it started in March. We actually we went ahead and secured a lot of PPE, a lot of food, making sure we had cleaning sanitizers in hands, hand washing, promoting a lot of food safety walkthroughs. And that didn't help much. Being in California, in Los Angeles County, the state and the governor made it really hard for restaurants. We started doing well. The college did announce on March 13th that all students had to return home and they were going to finish their semester with online learning. What that meant for us is that in less than a week, having food for at least 4 days out for 6,000 students, we ended up trying to figure out how we're gonna get rid of all that food when we only, at the end, we only had 100 students left. So it was a little bit of a roller coaster for us. It was very emotional here, very challenging, like for everyone. But we went through. We finished the semester in May. We went from having 3 dining halls, catering department, to just having 1 dining hall to feed 100 students for breakfast, lunch, and dinner snack until May. We actually were blessed with the college because all of our staff, we were given the opportunity. We had concerns, babysitting issues, or sick. The college paid everyone, and we're blessed for that until the end of June to just stay home, work from home, or just rest and be safe. And we actually got notice earlier this month that Pomona College will not be open for fall. So after all the programming, a lot of contingency plans were planned for the semester for us to be able to open. We did a lot of work. We were thinking about, we had different scenarios, but we planned everything to see if we could open with maybe just 1 dining hall or 2, or if the college wanted to do just grab and go. We purchased a bunch of coolers to promote grab and go. We purchased hand washing stations because we made it mandatory since the start of the pandemic to wash, for everyone to wash their hands and sanitize their hands before entering the eatery. So after all that planning and with the current cases in California, the college decided not to open for fall. So what that means for the college and for the community is really that all the employees, or dining employees, we have the opportunity to do facility campus services duties. So we have dining employees working, cleaning parking lots, cleaning dorms, cleaning fixtures around campus. And for management, we're also taking this opportunity to work on a lot of nutritionals, menus, putting photos, testing recipes in e-tech, a lot of allergy training. We have all of our folks certified for allergy training, safe renovation. So we're taking this opportunity this time to perhaps get things done that we never have a chance to do. And we're hopeful that come January or February, we get notice of the college intending to open. And other than that, it's pretty much been a roller coaster, I guess, for everyone. But even with all the challenges, we are coming through, and we're hopeful, and I hope everybody stays safe.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I hope everyone has really appreciated the insights from all 4 of our dining leaders. I think what's really exciting for me is to hear, you know, the through lines, the themes, but also the great diversity of experiences that you're each navigating, given public versus private, the different states and geographies you're in, and how COVID has hit perhaps differently or at different times or in different ways. There's been notes of having sort of the benefit of learning from others who've come before you if you weren't maybe in California or Washington. But obviously, you know, just the sharing that goes on here can help everyone who's in the same boat of just figuring out what fall looks like and beyond. So really appreciate just the variety of context that you each shared. So we're now going to move to our second poll and really then use any remaining time for discussion. So this relates to the needs assessment that went out. It relates to our ongoing insights exchanges. It relates to our new or our revived MCURC LinkedIn community, the ongoing or the new alumni network, and other resources that we have either bolstered, expanded, or just brought to light once again, in the sense of what can we do to support all of you during this time. And so our live poll question for you is, in which categories would you say you need the most support in terms of crowdsourced resources? And this is essentially sort of where might we channel what we gather from sharing all of our plans towards some kind of best practices sharing or specific help with troubleshooting. So Shannon, if you can go ahead and launch the poll, and then after everyone completes the poll, we do ask you to elaborate in the chat. So again, just for anybody listening on audio only, what we're asking is, in which of the following categories would you say you need the most support in terms of crowdsourced resources? The options are how to implement safety measures in your dining halls and kitchens, finding suppliers for new products and ingredients, menu ideas adapted for to-go service, alternatives to single-use packaging and containers, or others. So we'll give a couple seconds to share your answers, and then Shannon, when you think you've given enough time, you can go ahead and share the results. So, you know, we've asked this before, but part of the reason we're going to keep asking it is because this is such a highly fluid situation that everyone is in. So as of this moment in time, a big resounding help look around alternatives to single-use packaging and containers. And this clearly relates to what Chris Bosso shared, which is that by far the biggest impact you're seeing is on your sustainability initiatives. And so given that we are in a research collaborative that aims to accelerate research, education, and innovation around healthy as well as sustainable, delicious food choices, this is an area that, you know, really we may need to dig into. In the chat, can anyone share what, if you found anything, any good leads, any success stories? And if you haven't, share a bit more about what you need. You want specific product ideas, ways of sort of, you know, what is it that you need the most help with? Is it what I've heard sort of anecdotally elsewhere? Is that just purely in terms of supply chain, the products aren't there yet, given the scale of the demand? So that may be just sort of a bottleneck. The second most requested item in terms of types of crowdsourced resources would be menu ideas adapted for to-go service. That was going to be actually my guess. You know, Ghislaine mentioned folks are looking at which types of ingredients really hold up best, right? Greg Drescher and some of us, the colleagues at CIA and Stanford had some conversations about room temperature and just the whole, you know, differences, of course, in the food experience that happens when it's in a package and to go. So I'm seeing in the chat, Danny Armitage says, I encourage the group to focus on leadership during a time of fear and anger. That will help most with staffing challenges. It's a great point. Maureen Timmons has a question kind of building on this, everyone, the packaging question. Does anyone have tech solutions to communicate wait times at each dining location broadly? I know we saw in one of the pieces of data that speed of service, or one of the presentations actually, that speed of service is really a priority in how you're managing kind of diner flow. Tara Pisani Garo from Boston College says there's an application like they have at Disney World. That's interesting for wait time. That's a clever place to look. I'm sure they have figured that out. So thanks so much for sharing, and I would love to hear other, just in the chat. We have now actually about 5 minutes left, and if you have other questions or comments, if you can let us know in the chat, and then we will go ahead and unmute you. Just maybe time for 1 or 2 folks who want to either elaborate on this or kind of pose a question to others. Elaine, I like your idea around social media. And some interesting ideas coming in from Nana. Maureen, do you want to elaborate maybe on your wait time question, since you posed that as a kind of a discussion prompt?
Sure. I was just wondering, we have so many different locations around, and we're trying to figure out a way to communicate students, like, because our full student body is coming back, so, and how to, you know, less density in the dining rooms, less staff, everything. So there's going to be queuing, seating, crunch everywhere. So it would be cool to sort of say like, hey, there's space over here, or the queues later over here. So if there's any way to sort of, if anyone knows about any tech solutions or has any other even non-tech solutions, I'd love to hear about them. Disney, yes, if we can find the Disney tech solution.
That's pretty wild that your entire student body is coming back. So, I mean, I think we've really seen the variety of not only context, but really degree of quote unquote normalcy that you're trying to mimic, I suppose. You know, Jose mentioned just using this as sort of the rainy day projects time period, right? And that's a very, very different situation to be in than Maureen's. I know too at Northeastern, you've shared with me separately that you actually are going to have even more than normal because of all the students who can't be studying abroad. So that's always been very an interesting kind of situation of the normal capacities on campus. Love that
an extra 12 to 1,500 students that we don't normally have.
1,500
who'll be staying at local hotels.
Extra students. So lots of excitement kind of around an idea that Nana put forward for kind of a white paper, and looks like there's some potential collaboration brewing. So I'll be curious to see where that lands. And looks like Dustin Cutler has a kind of a tool maybe to project wait times. Looking at transportation, that's a good point. Ghislaine mentions Caltrain. You know, they have on Twitter kind of a way of sharing that. Greg Drescher says, you know, webcams have created buzz at Shake Shack when they launched in NYC. Privacy issues, who knows? I don't know.
Good stuff. Yeah, hey.
Whatever.
We do it at the feet, so we can look at people's feet.
Yeah. Oh, the feet. That's interesting.
No, just Sophie, just to jump in, that one of the things that launched Shake Shack was in wherever it was in New York City, and people in the surrounding neighborhood, you know, all went onto their computers, and as soon as the lines got down, they all ran in. And you could easily do that in a campus dining environment.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Greg.
Thanks for that lead. Okay, I think Maureen's got some good material. So, Ghislaine, if you can run to the next slide, I just want to plug very quickly. Save the dates, please, for the MCURC all-member meeting. So we sent out an email earlier this week that has the dates. It's going to be a 4-week series, 4 Wednesdays in a row throughout the month of October from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Pacific. More details to come, but please save the dates, and we look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you so much for joining us. Eric, any final comments before we send everyone off?
Oh, just thanks everyone for your engagement and participation today. I see many silver linings coming out of this pandemic, which is one of the great things about the collaborative. So, and thanks to all our excellent presenters today, just really fabulous presentations today. And I hope you all be well and stay safe.
Couldn't say it better myself. Thank you so much, Eric. Thanks, Ghislaine. Thanks to all our presenters. Stay well. See you soon. Take care.
Nice job, everybody. Thanks.